We'll leave the door open for half a second, but welcome all to the second last session of the day, but it may as well be the last session of last, because afterwards you guys get to sit and listen to the closing comments. It's a session about getting teams working well and introducing a bit of disruption and evoking a bit of curiosity. So we will, of course, start with a game. The other week I was chatting to a friend of mine who's a Melbourne Uni student. She's a little bit younger than me. She's captain of a Melbourne Uni sporting team. They train often. It's a complex sport she's into, one where the team has to collaborate to achieve results, and it's also a brand new sport, so the team is constantly evolving to stay ahead of the competition. Sound kind of agile? She is captain of the Melbourne Unicorns. You still can't guess, can you? It's Melbourne University's elite Quidditch team. So this afternoon we are going to start with a game of Quidditch. I truly have no idea of the rules, but we'll figure them out along the way. Do we have any netballers in the audience? 1, 2, excellent, so you'll be able to catch the ball. Any basketballers? Give it your best shot, guys. Footy players? You're allowed a hand pass. Soccer players? Take a header. Beach volleyball players? No, oh my God. Just don't get naked, all right? Hockey players? Oh, you can leave now. Oh, no, just kidding. All right, so this is how it goes. I throw the balls towards you guys. You guys chuck them around yourselves a bit. And when I say take a goal, throw them back towards the front. But this is the Quidditch bit, so listen carefully. We have no golden snitch, okay? We do have chocolate. And when I say incoming chocolate, look towards the front and watch where I aim. Last time we played this, it was an auditorium of 200 people and someone lost an eye. There's probably about, I don't know, 50, 60 people here, so there is a higher likelihood of this happening. All right. Are we ready? Are we steady? Incoming chocolate! Incoming chocolate! Incoming chocolate! Incoming chocolate! Oh, hard and fast! Oh, I didn't say take a goal! Where are those netball players? For crying out loud, incoming chocolate! Incoming chocolate! Incoming chocolate! Incoming chocolate! Incoming... Okay, take a goal! Take a goal! Take a goal! Go on, take a goal. Oh! All right, good enough, good enough. Good job for first training session. I'm Katrina Kolt. I work for Deakin University. I am captain of the Deakin Doors. You didn't get that, did you? Quidditch joke? Yeah, I know, it was only your first training session. All too often at these conferences, what happens is there's an assumption that companies are very well funded to send people on training, or that they're on a very mature path in their Agile journey, and that they have a strategic enterprise approach to Agile. What happens if there is no training budget? You've been along and certified as a Scrum Master, or you've read about it or heard about it at one of these events, and you think you might want to take your first steps in Agile. How do you, without any coaching, training, without being a real professional at this, have a go at involving the team in the Agile process and getting them excited and curious about Agile? How about if you are in a company where Agile practice is fairly mature, but you just need to shake the team up a bit? You need to remind them of some Agile values and principles. The workshop I run to introduce individuals and teams to Agile gets the team running 2 actual sprints in 2 hours and producing a very high-tech asset. It's a comic book of Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Okay, it's an exercise I adapted from, we're going to have to do it this way, unfortunately. It's an exercise I adapted from Mark Levison's Learning Scrum Through Games. And the exercise is a fabulous way for a team to start experiencing Scrum ceremonies, practices and roles from the ground up. And here's how it goes. You act as product owner. even if you're not officially one, and you provide the team with the following unprioritised backlog. Okay, so you can see what some of them are. As a parent, I can be excited by the book cover, so I'll open the book and read it to my child. As a child, I can count the characters and items, so I can develop my counting skills. And you can adapt these and do whatever story statements you want. As a sponsor, I can showcase my advertisement for home security so that parents will contact me for my services. As a sponsor, I can see my public service announcement about being kind to animals so that the next generation will improve on our generation. Okay, so there's some stuff in there that they have to achieve in a really short period of time. This is what the running sheet looks like. The team is given this schedule for 2 sprints in just 2 hours. And you can see there that you've got some sprint planning, you've got a full day of the sprint in just 10 minutes, another day of the sprint, a showcase and a retrospective. So this gets them acting out the actual Agile ceremonies, but in a really, really condensed format. But this is where things get interesting. And this is where I diverge from the original game. After they're set loose for the first sprint, myself as product owner, or you guys, explain that there is another story you desperately need to be in the sprint. You cannot compromise on it. And this is the story. As a child, I want to see a page in the book that shows what those bears were doing while they were out, so that I can once and for all know what they were up to when they left their house unattended and unlocked that morning. I mean, really, has no one ever asked that question? You can probably guess that for a new team or for new team members to a team running Agile, everything was pretty chaotic at this point. The teams made all the sort of mistakes you'd expect with teams transitioning from waterfall to Agile. This exercise, though, is fantastic fun. And having run it a few times, the learning outcomes have been quite similar to what Mark Levison reported. Utilise the product owner. The team forgot to ask the product owner questions, but after the first retro, when I introduced another story, they corrected this. This led to some really great discussion about acceptance criteria and walkthroughs. Chaos reigned. We learned that the forming stage of a team can be pretty chaotic, but that it is possible to still develop product. Working software is the only measure of progress. The team did not get through all the stories in the backlog. I've only shown you 4, but there were about 6. Even when that late-breaking story entered the sprint, they still didn't ask the product owner what might have to come out of the backlog. What they did do really well, though, was prioritise items in the backlog that would add value. And this led to great discussion about minimum viable product, MVP. Roles within the team. The Scrum Master, who was never Scrum Master before the exercise, did a great job of checking that the teams had no obstacles. So we also discussed how you can best utilise a team with a variety of skills, and I even saw some informal pairing happening, mostly because some people just couldn't draw. But anyhow. So while it's an effective way to get a team experiencing Scrum through a workshop like this, it doesn't actually give a team much depth of understanding of the specific roles within Agile. The next learning step that I take new teams on, or new team members then, is about understanding these roles, and it's through another exercise that I call the Big Pineapple Donut Workshop. This one's adapted from Sam Whiting's The Herculean Donut. Why have I changed it to the Big Pineapple Donut? That would be because I love the 1970s style pineapple icing on those round donuts. But before you express your revulsion at this, please know that neither artificial yellow colour nor fake pineapple flavouring are essential to this workshop. So what you start by doing is you actually start by summarising typical roles in an Agile team. And you can develop your own slide, but it might look something like this. So it really just gives them a broad overview who a product owner is, what the development team does, what a Scrum Master does. After you've had a bit of a discussion and they understand a little bit about this, you give them a whole bunch of different tasks. Now, what I'm showing you is just a snippet of a much larger set of tasks. I don't give it to them on a table. They're cut up into pieces of paper, and of course they're not associated with product owner, dev team, Scrum Master, or everyone. They simply get like a lucky dip of different tasks or typical activities. What they have to do then is map it onto the big yellow pineapple, the big pineapple donut. And they do this as a team, or potentially they can do it as a pairing exercise. And then it gives you the opportunity. You start to hear discussions. No, I don't think the dev team does that. I don't think the dev team writes stories. You know, isn't that what the product owner has to do? And so it starts to develop discussions that you can take. Well, in our team, you know, it will be useful if dev team members are also involved in writing stories or writing acceptance criteria or test criteria. Obviously, you can fashion it best to how your team works, and it's a way of getting them to collaborate and decide how they want to work. That's how I ran it with my team. We didn't have clear definition of roles until after this workshop. You might conclude this type of workshop with a discussion about the idea of servant leadership, which is, of course, different to traditional leadership. And it might be the first time that individuals in the team have heard about this term, or if you're in a more mature Agile environment, they may have heard of the term but don't exactly know what it means. Teaching Agile is one way of learning, as in upfront teaching, facilitating a workshop. But heading out to an Agile workplace is another way. In the early stages of our adoption, I managed to organise for a few sensational Scrum Masters at MYOB, the large accounting firm out in the east of Melbourne, to host my entire team. The team was blown away, both by the environment, the way the teams ran, and the diversity of practice in one workplace. If you want to hear more about a bunch of tricks and tips for getting the most out of a visit to another workplace, I'm not including it in this preso, but I have blogged about it on my blog, agilesister.com. So to summarise, no, there's one more slide about that, because I do want to show you a workshop I ran after a field trip, and this is around making the most of that field trip. It was around reflecting on the trip. And what you can see here is I pulled out two Agile principles, number 12 and number 5. And what I've asked the team to do is attach to each of those principles 4 different values. And the values I asked them to consider were customer service, quality, project management and teamwork. So I got them thinking about the actual Agile principles, but not in the boring way that is often presented at the beginning of Scrum Master accreditation, but partway down their journey when they'd had the opportunity to experience some of those things. They looked at the top one. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how it becomes more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behaviour accordingly. And they said, that talks about teamwork and that talks about quality. The next step of the workshop was to say, okay, we understand these principles now, and to ask a few questions about those principles. What Agile principles do we see in action in our workplace? And they had some more pieces of paper. The top one with the Deacon logo is the one they said, we use retros effectively to change for the better. So they were really responding to that principle. What did we see at MYOB? And here they've said around that principle of number 5, build projects around motivated individuals, they said what we saw was passion, fun, and it was fanatical, and we saw motivation. And the third question I asked them was, what new stuff do we want to have a go at? And what they said in response to give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done was, my team said, we want an engaging workspace. And they figured out what that would look like. So, in a few sprints, the teams experienced 3 workshops, a visit to another organisation to see Agile in action, guidance and coaching from a Scrum Master about typical practices, and all with no training budget whatsoever. Let's see if we can answer a few of the questions I posed at the beginning. How can you introduce Agile when there's no funding to send people on training? You can run a few workshops and have a Scrum Master that's comfortable acting as coach as well, even if you're not a certified coach. You just need a bit of creativity and the ability to solve an immediate problem. What's the most effective way to teach a team about Agile? By getting them experiencing Agile through a workshop that sees them running a sprint and understand something about Agile roles. Can you take an Agile approach to designing a curriculum? Absolutely. The first two workshops addressed our highest priorities in the training backlog, getting the team understanding the Scrum rhythm, practices, ceremony and roles. And then in subsequent workshops, I ran to embed Agile behaviours and to teach the team how to articulate epics and stories. By taking an Agile approach to learning, you can be flexible to the team's needs and say, what is the minimum viable product to get them working Agile, and what additional stuff do we do to deliver a better experience for them? What does it feel like to be amongst the first group in an organisation to introduce Agile? Some of you may never have been the first in an organisation to introduce Agile. You may have come into a mature environment. Well, I can tell you that for me, and this is the third workplace I've been in that was at the beginning of its journey, it's incredibly exciting. But for the team, or for individuals who are new to Agile, it's incredibly scary. When there's a sense that all that you understand to be true about work changes, then this can be challenging. In Agile, and this was a learning for me, the work you do is suddenly transparent. You talk about it in stand-up. People can see whether you progress or not. You're suddenly part of a group that starts sharing stuff at retros. And other people can see stories that you've written. It's a big transition from an environment that's not mature in Agile into one that's mature to help people feel comfortable with this transparency. So how can you change that paradigm so that the weirdness of Agile starts to feel normal and great? Acknowledge the weirdness. My team have seen this, okay? I don't know if they laughed, but they've seen it. Encourage heaps of questions at retros. Get the team comfortable with using the terminology, or change words if they don't feel comfortable with them. Scrum has now changed the word showcase to sprint review. My team agreed on the term open house. Why? Because we invited more than just our immediate stakeholders to have a sticky beak at what we delivered. Talk about the different practices and the meaning of them. So, for example, with a walkthrough, explain that it's sometimes called a desk check or a shoulder tap, and decide what term best reflects the way you implement this practice. Okay. It does not sound very Agile to reward Agile behaviour by sending an acknowledgement email. The truth is, I have done it. In the early days of implementing Agile in my organisation, my team believed that an acknowledgement of excellence was not an acknowledgement unless it came by email and unless your manager was copied on it. The purpose of the email I sent out, and I've sent out quite a few of these, was both to acknowledge an individual's contribution, but also to call out the Agile behaviour they demonstrated and applaud this. Here's a snippet of one I sent out, applauding Agile behaviour of individuals and interactions. What a great initiative to get the right people into a room around that video issue. As per our conversation, this video piece will lead to some stories for us. Hope you don't mind that I've copied insert name of boss on this email, but just wanting to keep her in the loop when I see great examples like this of Agile behaviours, such as face-to-face collaboration to resolve issues that trip us up. Well done. I'm not for a moment, and there the email ends, I'm not for a moment suggesting that you prefer email over thanking someone for their work face-to-face or acknowledging when something went really well during a retro. Instead, what I'm saying is that there are a number of ways to reinforce great Agile behaviours, and retro isn't the only one. How can you use rewarding Agile behaviours as a way to embed Agile in the team? The wholesome face of this guy, Happy Apple, has been part of the way I reward Agile behaviours to embed Agile in the team. Having brought joy to a couple of generations of kids in my family, this goofy 1960s retro toy has been making his way around the team as a way of acknowledging when someone does something that shows great agileness. When you tap him, he emits a very soothing, chimey sound, and he's now bringing cheer to Generation Digital. At Retro, the team member who has been the custodian of Happy Apple commends another team member and passes him on. I've even been Instagrammed some classic shots of Happy Apple getting up to some fun stuff in the pub on a Friday night. He was manufactured in the 1960s, but really my vision of him up until this time has been as a clean-living guy. Do different people need different approaches to rewarding Agile behaviours? Of course. Happy Apple was universally loved by my team, but some people felt out and out embarrassed to be commended when they demonstrated an Agile behaviour. Others revelled in an absolute roasting over non-Agile behaviours, like me calling out humorously that they were going for the Guinness World Record on email chains with the person sitting next to them. Fun as the key to forming an Agile team. Who doesn't want to have fun, really? I've worked in Agile environments across Telstra Digital, Australia Post and now Deakin University. It is not a given that just because it's Agile, it's going to be fun. What is a given, though, is that fun is hard to achieve in an culture and environment where trust or ownership is not present. It follows then that as a team learns to have fun together, they also learn to trust each other and be more open to learning and developing a set of Agile behaviours. What I've learnt, though, across different work environments is that fun doesn't look the same in each team, and that like other team rules, fun has to be something that a team agrees on. Sound weird? I'll explain what I mean. When I arrived at Deakin, I found a team that had undergone some major workplace restructure. I was the first person to be hired after a spill and fill. People had been farewelled from the team, and almost certainly others had applied for the role that I was subsequently appointed to. Does it sound like fun yet? Fun was something that needed to happen in a measured way, because these guys were mourning the loss of the old and terrified about how Agile would turn their world upside down. The reason why I'm recounting this is to explain that in the transition from non-Agile to Agile, a cultural change has to take place that should certainly embrace having fun, but that it has to be with the permission of the team. A few sprints in, I asked the following question at Retro. How much fun do we want this to be? I was met with incredulous silence. No one could answer the question because they were so flabbergasted by the idea that work could be fun. Eventually someone asked, "What do you mean?" I responded that I was travelling down to Geelong twice a week, and I'd kind of like to enjoy the experience of being in the glorious waterfront city, unabashed product promotion there. This meant exploring some of the good coffee spots and finding somewhere that served the ultimate salad sandwich, something by which I benchmark a good Aussie lunchtime menu. There were a few smiles. I explained that a good Scrum Master never eats lunch alone. And subsequent to that, they realised that they had permission to relax into a bit of fun. I can now glowingly recommend several uber cool coffee spots, and although I have not found that ultimate salad sandwich, there is an excellent, incredibly down-market chicken schnitzel shop that serves chicken schnitzel right on the university's doorstep. Allowing the team to take some time out was critical in helping them relax into the idea that as knowledge workers, what we bring to work is our brains, and that those brains need an opportunity for fun to keep them working well throughout the day. We agreed to eat lunch together at the end of each sprint, and the way we did it was we got together in the kitchen and we put together just some sandwiches or something like that, so that it was the act of doing it together as a team that was the most important thing. Last month I ran the Great Pancake Cook-Up, which was planned as an agile epic, complete with stories such as a lunch eater, I want to have a variety of toppings for my savoury pancakes so that everyone else in the kitchen is jealous of the sight of the incredible creations. The entire epic was delivered and consumed in 1 hour. I also introduced other fun stuff as a way of acknowledging our progress. When a story is done, the doer gets to have a go on the toy xylophone. You guys have probably done stuff like that. However, halfway through last sprint, I noticed that the team was well on the way to completing the entire sprint, and I felt it needed a soundful acknowledgement. So during our stand-up, the finale of the 1812 Overture filled the office, complete with cannons. Was this disruptive? Well, quite possibly, but for all the right reasons. It probably made people wonder what wonderful thing had happened. It may have made some people want to get with the team that was having the most fun. It was pretty apparent to me, though, I will share this with you, that after the 1812 Overture incident, followed by Pharrell Williams' Happy and Alex Lloyd's Amazing, when we did complete all the stories in the sprint, that the team was finding my musical taste a bit naff, or you can read only suitable for those over 40. I countered with a competition for them to supply some music we can use when we're happy, excited, kick some goals, or finish a truly nasty story. Hinting at a past spent in too many 80s dance clubs, one team member came back with the sounds of an all-night party mix. Sing hallelujah and right on time. I'm longing to get to the stage when they prank me. It hasn't happened yet, although I persist and continue to prank them. My experience has made it clear to me that fun opens up a team to embrace disruption and learn better. I'm trying to race through the last bit, apologies. Encouraging curiosity. The spirit of curiosity has always been inside me, but as Scrum Master, it's my role to get the team and the organisation eager to learn more stuff. Skipping a whole bit here. What I do is I run competitions every sprint, and the learning outcome of the competition is ludicrously easy. The first one was, what does Agile say about chickens and pigs? All right, you guys know the answer. You would have won. Okay, so they got to choose between light or dark brown chocolate. There was very poor response. I challenge you with these competitions to please plagiarise them, get to my blog and tell me if they worked, because just because my team is not excited by this, I don't believe that other teams would not be. I was advised by the team at Retro that the prize wasn't compelling enough. I agreed instead to make the prize a choice between white or red wine. Apparently they think that Scrum Masters have deep pockets, but indicated that the competition would have to be harder. This time I asked, what does Agile say about dancing with pigs? The winner would have to Google the phrase and present back to the team on a fantastic article by Timothy Corson on stakeholder management. Other competitions I've run include the best celebratory music, an awesome YouTube clip that demonstrates an Agile principle, the best fortune cookie message. Life is long. Respond to change over following a plan. That wasn't the winning entry, but that's my entry. The best Yoda wisdom about Agile. Customer collaboration. You shall learn. Favour it over contract negotiation. You get the message. There are heaps of other ways you can create curiosity within your team or organisation.